Thank you for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
The very first step in any selling process is to find someone to tell about your product or service. Cold calling is fine and has an important place in sales, but it can be frustrating and usually has a low contact and acceptance rate. You can do much better if you can get a referral, if someone you already know has you talk to one of their contacts. So put down that cold call list as Scott and I discuss after-sales issues, referrals, and other great ideas on episode 476 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
Before we get into the book club, I want to clarify what Bill said. Bill said that it is still okay to cold call. It's still something that we have to do, right, Bill?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're not going to get all referrals, and there's great people out there that you can't get referred to. So you've got to do a mix of things. Don't try just one. Yeah. Don't be a one-trick pony. We
still need to cold call, folks. If you're reading the paper, you're seeing something online, and you got a perfect fit prospect. The company is one that you work with. It's in your universe. You still have to call them. We're going to get on to the book first here. The All 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey, and we're talking about habit 2. Pages 96 through 118. These, I noticed that these first couple of habits are really long pages. I look at how many pages are in the book, and I feel like I'm halfway done. I'm only on habit 2.
They lay the groundwork for the whole thing. Be proactive and begin with the end in mind. It's really where it all starts.
Right. And I think when they refer to that, they're really talking about beginning the end in mind is based on the principle that all things are created twice. There's a mental or first creation, and a physical, a second creation to all things. Is that how you understood it?
Well, I've always heard conceive, believe, and then achieve. So the first thing you have to do is conceive an idea, think about it, let it grow in your mind until you can believe it, and then you can start to achieve it.
Right. And I think that that's really an essence of repeating the first habit, which is being proactive. And we know that, we need to be proactive because we're in charge of our future and our destination. And if we're not, and he incorporates this into this chapter, and he says, in our personal lives, if we do not develop our own self-awareness and become responsible for first creations, we empower others and circumstances outside our circle of influence to shape much of our lives by default. Right. And he uses that circle of influence. I think we covered that last time, but just a very powerful image as to looking at the circle of concern and the circle of influence.
Well, if you're not working for your own goals, you're working for someone else's goals. I think that's what he said. And if you don't create any goals, you're just forced to go with whatever the wind takes you. And we've seen people do that through their whole career. Hey, they're hiring down at the plant. Oh, okay. I guess I'll go down to the plant. And then they work there for 30 years. And they're like, what'd you do? And I worked at the plant. And, which is fine. I don't have anything wrong with somebody who's working at the plant, but realize, don't sit around and complain that your life isn't great because you just chose to take the easiest path of least resistance.
Right. I had a neighbor one time call me up Saturday morning and said, "Hey, Scott, what are you doing today?" And I said, "Nothing." Of course, I had a laundry list of things that I had to get done around the house. And
you're hoping he'd say, "Well, come to the ball game with me."
Yeah. I thought, hey, let's go to the Twins game or something like that. He goes, "Hey, I'm building a retaining wall. Can you come over and help me?" And I go, "Oh, sure. Great.
Wait a minute. Oh, I hear my wife. No, I don't have a wife.
At that very moment, this blog, and I'll share it in the show notes, came to my mind. If I don't have a goal, I'm helping somebody else achieve their goal.
I'm helping someone else build their retaining wall.
Right, exactly. I enjoyed hanging out with my neighbor, and we probably put down a case of beer, but it was a beautiful day, and we had a chance to chat, and it was fun. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, I didn't get anything done at my house.
That's right,
and I had to pay for that later.
Well, I find that I have a mother who's 93 and I love her and I go visit her about 4 times a year, but I just work my butt off the entire time I'm there, keeping her house up and thinking about the whole time, what is not getting done at my house. So it's a good trade-off, but it is a trade-off.
Right. And I really like the book. He talked about leadership and management. Leadership is what are the things you want to accomplish, and management is how can I best accomplish certain things. And I've never heard it broken down like that before. And I've always knew that they were different, but I never knew how to really describe them differently.
Well, I was just on a call this morning with a global leadership team that I've been doing some work with, and we were talking about KPIs, key performance indicators. And that is really where leadership and management are merging, is these challenges. And so as I listen to some people, they're like, here's the percentages and we need to do these percentages and they have to hit these goals. And other people are saying, well, I got some people that are doing this way and they're not motivated, and these goals, and that's the leadership, right? How do I motivate people? How do I help them stay interested? How do I help them? So I really latched onto this management versus leadership when he was talking about it.
Yeah, I just posted something on LinkedIn this morning by the Harvard Business Review, 5 reasons your employees don't understand your company's vision. And I read them.
Number one.
Well, they have it, but it's at 50,000 feet. And by the time it gets down to the managers and the supervisors on implementing the vision with the folks in the front lines, it gets so dissipated that they don't even have a connection anymore to the activities, the tasks, to the sales objectives, to the goals that they want to achieve as a company. And there's just so much disconnection within that because it's not real world application of what are we going to do today? What are we going to focus on today?
Well, as I've worked with leadership, the interesting thing is I'll go into an organization and I'll talk to the leader. It might be the CEO or VP or president or whatever. And I'll say, what's your company vision statement? Do you have one? Yes, we do. What is it?
It's hanging up in the lobby.
Wait a minute. You don't even know your own vision statement. How can you use that to guide your decisions?
Yeah.
That's what your vision statement should be doing, right? So you're just managing. And I like that story that he told about the guy who decided to quit managing and people kept trying to draw him back into managing, but he decided to stay in leadership and create vision and look to the future. And he tripled his business in a year.
Right. I think, we need to be able to take a vision and we need to implement it into a behavior, and that behavior should be aligned with a goal. So here's my goal. And I've shared this in class many times. My goal is to find a prospect that's willing to pay me for a product or service I can provide and deliver at a profit. And I have to be able to hit all 5 of those. Find a prospect willing to pay me for a product or service I can provide and deliver at a profit. Those 5 things. Right. And if you want to adopt it, listeners, feel free to adopt that, because that's a great goal every single day as a salesperson.
Well, and that's what he starts to talk about, right? What is your personal mission statement? And I think he goes much broader than just a business mission statement, but he wants you to start thinking about, where do you want to end up in life? Begin with the end in mind. What he has you at the very beginning of the book, or the chapter, talk about, imagine yourself at your own funeral. And what are people saying about you? And is what people are saying about you, does that match what you want to be known for? And then he comes back to the personal mission statement, because that's going to get you where you want to be in life, all standpoints, from your family, from your faith, from your personal business success. All those things have to be included.
Yeah. And those are I think it was the 4 people at your funeral. So one from each of these categories that comes and speaks. So it's a great story, and it's a great, way to think about what do you want to be known for? What kind of reputation do you want to have? And, think about 5 words that people would use to describe you in your absence, and then ask yourself, am I living those 5 words in my behavior? So, and there could be a breakdown there. He talks about, management again is, no management success can compensate for failure in leadership, but leadership is hard because it's often caught in a management paradigm, which, paradigm is back to the first part of the book, the shift in paradigms.
Right. And that's what I was talking about with the KPIs, the issue that people had. It kept drawing them back to the numbers and trying to achieve the numbers, which was management, rather than inspire the people, which is the leadership.
And then he talked a little bit about these 4 forces: the security, guidance, wisdom, and power. And I'm not really sure how those all work together, so I need to go through and reread that again. For some reason,
I was exactly the same thing. That I read them and I read the descriptions, but it didn't really latch on to me as much as the next topic did, which was the different alternative centers of that.
The 4 centers: security, guidance, wisdom, and power. I'm thinking, which direction are we going? Because I was looking at is that aircraft, we have thrust, drag, lift, and weight. Where are we going, and what are working together, and what are balancing out the aircraft? And I couldn't figure that out. So I need to go through and reread that again, and maybe I'll watch a YouTube video on it. But here's the 8. There's 8 alternatives.
Oh, wait a minute. I want to go back to what you said. This was a better vision for me, and that was, as he says, the center is a circle, and then these arrows point out from that in the 4 directions of the compass, right? And I used to do an activity where people would put their values of like home and faith and then put it on a circular grid and then attach those dots. And the question was, how round is your circle?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you look at security, guidance, wisdom, and powers, are you finding ways to keep all those even, or is one of those overwhelming the others?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I could see that.
So kind of a balanced situation, as you mentioned with airplanes too.
Yeah. But each of these 8, and he goes into great detail, I think, on each of them, which is really surprising. I learned a lot with each of them. Again, if you haven't started reading the book, it's not too late to get caught up, but it's a great book. And again, it was written 30 years ago. So it's a proven wisdom in the content. So here's the first one, is spousal centeredness, which, you're created on your spouse approval and following your spouse's plan, when in reality, I think 2 people need to work together towards a common goal and to be able to contribute. And we haven't gotten to the love bank, but I know the love bank is in this book because I've heard people talk about it, where you have to make contributions to the love bank. If you keep making deposits, great. But if you keep making withdrawals, no deposits, ain't going to work very well.
Right.
So this is a little bit more relevant to you, Bill, since I don't have a spouse.
Well, yeah, I think that as I was reading through these, and there's a lot of detail in each one of them, but
right.
I think what he's trying to say there is you can get off kilter based on what you're centering yourself around versus trying to find the right center for you.
Yeah. Here's the quote that I highlighted. If our sense of emotional worth comes primarily from our marriage, then we become highly dependent upon the relationship. And I don't think that that's a very healthy position to take.
Yeah.
Next one,
no one's ever married you.
Well, that could be. I'm sure that there's some reasons psychologically why I'm not there yet.
That's right. Well, my father gave me one piece of advice. He said, if you ever have an argument with your wife and you find out you're right, apologize immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good advice.
That is. I have to write.
That's only for guys. The women don't have to do that, I don't think.
Yeah.
So
the next one is the family centeredness, which I highlighted, but at the center, ironically, destroys the very elements necessary for family success. Now, there's some context to that. I took that a little bit out of context, but there's a part of it earlier where, and there's another great story too, where, some guy gets called up and he's got a chance to go to work or spend time with his family. He decides to spend time with his family, which is good because work will always be there. His family, is a limited amount of time that they're together. Right. Next one is money centeredness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of self-evident. I didn't highlight anything in that because I got it. I know what I mean.
Yeah, that's something I always have to. Again, with these, I think they're all things that if we let these things become too centered on us, we lose the balance. These would be kind of the same areas that I would talk about in that wheel example that I gave. And if we overwhelm too much in one area, if we put all of our time into our family, put all of our time into work, put all of our time into pleasure, we're going to be disappointed in the end. So I don't know exactly where he's going with this. What is there a right centeredness, or is there, how do we find what our center should be?
Well, I've learned looking at some of the titles in this book and some of the concepts that he's teaching, these are titles of future books that he has. So he has a book called Centered Leadership Style or something like that. So now he's taking, he's developing this concept into another book. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what the second step of this, the next 20 pages or so in this chapter are going to be, is finding your center and really creating that personal mission statement. We just kind of started on it a little bit here, but what is it going to be in the future?
I'm just going to run through the other ones real quickly, just by name, and folks can follow along in the book. The next one is work centeredness. So people are, workaholics. Possession centeredness, which these are the folks that are materialistic and they're collecting a lot of things, and that's how they value their self-worth. And they always feel better when they have more stuff than other people have. Pleasured centeredness, where, hey man, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And they're always focused on that.
Hedonism.
There's the friend enemy centeredness, which I found really interesting that he put both of them in the same category, but that's when you focus so much on working with a friend or working against an enemy that ends up controlling your entire life and your destination.
Right.
And then the last one is the church centeredness, where that is everything that is part of your life. And I'm not thinking that that's all bad, but I think
Well, I
if you
think
get
he
out
was
of
trying
balance,
to. I think he was trying to make the statement. I don't think he said faith-centeredness. He said
right?
church-centeredness.
That's
So
right.
are
Yeah,
we?
I do remember that.
And I remember when I was younger, we had kids, and we were going to kids programs at this particular church, and there were some people that we knew, and they were at that church every night. They
Oh,
were doing
wow.
something, and their kids were always in a daycare situation while they did things for the church.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to do things for your church, but not at the expense of your family time.
Yeah, there's one more
Totally.
I forgot. Yeah, so there are 9, and the last one is self-centeredness, which
Yep,
I think we understand what that means.
Got to watch out for that. Yep, excellent. Yep. So yeah, I'm curious to see, and I think also we need to make sure we're working out and taking some notes on how finding our own centeredness.
This segment has been brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of Winning at Selling Podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling Podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future.
So as we get into our main topic for today, it's after sales issues, referrals. And I've this isn't my best thing. I got to tell you, Scott, I am not real good at asking for them. And it's hard to always find the way. I did find a couple of tools that have helped me a lot in this later in my career. But let's just talk about this in general. And I've got a couple of strategies that I've started doing that have gotten better for me over time. So I think the first one for especially for your customers, and this is why it's an after the sale issue. I don't think you have to wait till the sale is done, but get in the habit of asking. Asking poorly or asking with no plan is better than not asking at all. Right. If we do it perfectly but never ask, then we're not really helping ourselves. So get in the habit of asking and just saying, hey, look, I've enjoyed working with you. Do you know anybody else that might need the same sort of thing? So keep it simple. And then, like I said, you don't have to wait till after the sale. You can ask for referrals during the sales process. So as you develop that relationship and some trust has been established, I think you can ask for people that they know, especially other people in the organization. I think that's important. That's a different type of referral, but who else in the organization should we be talking to?
Right. That's a great anchoring technique, I call it. So getting as many contacts within a company as possible so that if one of them leaves, you still know other people in the organization. If your only contact leaves the organization, you got to start over. All the years, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you're hunting and pecking, finding out who remembers you, who knows who you are. And that's not fun.
Yeah, you can't have one champion in an organization. They're too big now.
Right. Yeah.
And they will leave. I don't know what the numbers are anymore, but at one time, people in the C-suite, it was 3 or 4 years. Same with the VP and the director level. People aren't staying at organizations for a long time anymore. That was our father's deal.
It really was. Yeah.
30 years at, whatever. Now it's 3 years. I talked to one of my sons and he said, well, I'll work at this company for 4 or 5 years, learn some things and move on to something else. I mean, that was his plan. So I think our plan was, let's try and stay here for 10 or 15 years, but now it's changing.
Yeah. When I
So,
work with a company and interviewing salespeople, I say, could you give me 30 months? Could we just, plan on 30 months and then go from there? And that's 2.5 years. And that's kind of the norm these days. Companies
mhm.
change. They need to be more agile. They need to be more fluid. They need to be more competitive. And sometimes that labor, when it's not directly tied to revenue, becomes a very big expense. And it's not a contingency fee where you only pay it when you generate revenue.
Yeah, we work in Scott and I work in Minneapolis. It's a big medical device area. And I can't tell you the number of companies I've spoken to, Scott, where their whole goal is to get purchased.
Yeah,
So they come
exactly.
in, they get funded, they have one good idea, and they're hoping Medtronic or Boston Sci or Abbott or somebody
Right.
buys them. And so they don't really have a plan on staying in business 20 years. They have a plan
Exactly.
on getting absorbed.
Right. Clinical trials, FDA approval, bam, we've been proven. Now we're going to do the commercialization and we're going to work on being sold.
So all that goes back to saying meet a lot of people. Now, the benefit to all that movement is keep track of those people. And that's where I think LinkedIn has been a really good tool for me.
Absolutely.
Because people don't call you and go, hey, Bill, I'm leaving the company. They just, they're just gone. They've got other things to think about. You're one of their sales vendors, and that's fine. But you're not the first person on the list to say, oh, I'm leaving. So you can find that they've gone and recontact them. And now maybe you have a new place to go do business.
Exactly.
All right. So some referral strategies. One of the things, well, that's one we just talked about, right? Following the people well that you know. But one of the things I found that was really helpful, because the question that was always hard was, who should I ask them about? And when I would say, who do you know that I should talk to, people just kind of had this big vision of blankness.
Right.
So one of the things I did was I developed a top 10 companies that I want to do business with, put that in my wallet, put it in my phone. And when they say, when I'm asking the referral question, I say, now here's 10 companies I want to do business with. Let me know if you know anybody from any of these companies. And they don't have to be in sales, or they don't have to be in leadership. Just anybody you know that you feel comfortable having me contact, and maybe I can meet some other people in that organization.
Yeah.
And when I say company names, especially some of the large companies here in town, you'd be amazed at how many contacts I get by mentioning those top 10 companies.
Great strategy.
The second one strategy that I use is to describe a position or person that I want to do business with. So what I'll say is, Scott, let me talk to you a little bit about who I want to do business with, and maybe that'll strike a chord for you. So I want to do business with people that are in organizations of 100 to 300 people, maybe $30 million organizations. And what I want them to be is in the sales chain somewhere. So especially in leadership, a sales manager, a director of sales, VP of sales and marketing. Those are the types of leadership positions that I'm usually working with. Do you know anybody in an organization that's in one of those leadership positions? So that helps, because you have to help generate their idea thought a little bit. Do you do something
Imagination?
like that?
Yeah, I do. I lead the witness. So I say, I'm looking for somebody. It might be somebody that maybe your neighbor to, or maybe it could be a relative, or maybe it's somebody that you used to work with, or maybe it's involved in Rotary or another association. It could be somebody that is in a church group that you're a part of. And I lead the witness in all the different areas of all of the different universes that they end up living in, to find out who they might know that might be a good fit for me.
Yeah. So you can do it by their associations, right? Neighbors, those sorts of things. And that would lead me into my number 3, which is to mine your own contacts. And that is mine as an MINE, mine. LinkedIn. Who do you know in LinkedIn, and who do they know? I think that's always a very, you go 2 or 3 levels in LinkedIn, and you've got 100,000 people that you
definitely
can talk to. Who did you go to high school or college with? I was just talking with another salesperson, and one of the biggest deals he got the first initial contact with somebody he had gone to college with. Now, he didn't get the business for a couple of years, but that gave him the entree to have the discussion, then to do the follow-up, then to eventually, when the other competitor failed, they could walk in and take the business away. So you have to be willing to look at everyone that you know, and perhaps those associations, or the people in high school there that you went to high school with, they've gotten some business success.
Well, they built a network to you.
That's right.
For you. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Everybody knows 100 other people that you don't know. So,
yeah, exactly.
And then one other idea, and you talked about this, I think, earlier, and that is to partner with other businesses that sell to the same people, but not the same products. So who else sells to, for me, sales manager, sales leader, who else sells to, your kind of production company? Find out who does that and see if you can share names. Now, I'm not a big person on networking groups. I haven't found any real value to them. Maybe you have, and you have a different story, but seldom do I find that they know the people that I need to know. And so, but partners in business that sell to those same kind of companies, or to the same level of business person, that's useful for me.
I like the networking groups just for the social interaction with people. There's some great people. I mean, in PSA, there's some great people in PSA that I love seeing. So,
absolutely. But I don't count on getting business.
But if I look at my checkbook, I can't draw a direct connection. Could be somebody that knows somebody, and
but I can learn things.
Right. And I'm a reference. I could be a reference, or they could be a reference too. And that's influential too. But I want to kind of appeal to the people that are hesitant to ask for a referral. And I just want to share a personal story that I went through. It's got to be 20 years now, maybe even longer than that. I went in and saw my financial planner once a year, and his name was Randy. And about the third or fourth year, I saw him. I go, Randy, I'm kind of curious. How come you don't ever ask me for a referral or an introduction, or if I know anybody that I could introduce to you? And he said, that's just not the way I run my business. I go, oh, okay. I said, let me tell you how I feel about that. How I'm interpreting that is that you do not enjoy our relationship, and that you do not want more prospects like me. Oh, no, that's not true at all. I'd love to have more prospects like you. Well, how come you don't ask me for names of people that I hang around with? Because I assure you, I hang around people like me because they're like me. And when you don't ask me, I feel like you don't want my business. So when you have the perspective of you're not asking because you don't want to impose, you might be sending a message to your prospect that you don't like working with that prospect, and you do not want more people like them to come and visit you.
Right.
So I think we need to really keep in mind that we need to say to people, prospects, say, I really enjoy working with you. I'd like to build my network with more people like you. I'm guessing you hang around people like you. Who do you know you like to feel comfortable introducing me to?
Yeah.
And say that I really, or ask them a question. Here's a question to start off a conversation about referrals. How do you describe what I do? And when they describe what you do, and you're understanding it from their perspective, you're listening to what value is. You're really listening to the reason that they buy from you and work from you. And you say, I'm really grateful that you shared that with me. I would like to do that for others. Who do you know that you'd feel comfortable introducing me to?
Yeah.
And you're really complimenting them. You really are. Salespeople, I assure you, when you ask a prospect for a referral introduction, you're complimenting them, period. But you have to ask. You have to ask for a referral.
Yeah, I think the assumption is that I'm going to call them and bug them. Well, if you were bugging me, then you aren't confident in your own value that you're delivering to me.
Right.
Once if I've got some kind of a relationship with you, once you've asked me, it's like, oh, let me try and come up with somebody, and I want to come up with somebody, and that's why you have to help them. Here's the type of person I'm looking for. They're married, they have a couple of kids, their career's on the way up, and they're concerned about, their future and how are they going to make sure their family is taken care of for the future. That's who I'm looking to talk to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know a couple of people like that. So give them a good description of what that is. Well, I want to close out this section. That was a great example. I'm going to close out this section with another example. So when I was just getting started in my own business, a friend of mine gave me a referral, and I let it fall to the bottom of the pile. If you've ever done that, you didn't call them right away.
Right.
And, kind of got smelly after a little bit, how those get, and, you keep running across, go, how to call that guy. And then a couple of days later, the guy who referred me, he said, hey, did you ever call Jay? And I said, oh, no, I didn't ever call him. He goes, call him. He's a great guy. So I grabbed it and I called him right away. And that became the biggest piece of business I ever had.
Wow.
10 years of a great relationship. He and I are great friends still. He's gone from that business and retired, but we had a great relationship and we did really good business together. And that was because I picked up that referral and called it. So not only do you need to get referrals, but I recommend calling them as soon as you get them. Don't let them get stinky on your desk and then you don't want to call them. Any lead is like that. It gets stinky as it gets old. Go ahead and call them right away and see what happens.
And you probably, if you don't call your referral leads, you're not going to get any more referral leads. So
that's true. Just and the way let it works. People know what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I always circle back and tell people what happened.
All right. Any resources you're going to put on the web?
Just in our conversation, I came up with, one of my blogs that I wrote from Front to Strut on, if you don't have a goal, you become working with somebody else on their goals. So I'll put that in there.
And I've got a 2-minute selling tip video on the top 10. So it's called Know Your Top 10. We'll put a link in on the resource page. This segment of the Winning at Selling podcast is brought to you by The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Getting in the Door by Steve Kloida. Steve Kloida was known internationally for increasing salespeople's ability to make solid appointments with qualified prospects. You too can learn this essential skill by ordering a copy of his superb book, The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Getting in the Door. In this book, Steve shares the top strategies and tactics he has developed, implemented, and personally tested with more than 1 million sales and prospecting calls. You can get his book on the website, theprospectingexpert.com. In addition, check out his other great online resources. Instant Sales Coaching, which will guide you through 5 online success modules. A guided prospecting process entitled Call Reluctance Transformer, and the Magnetic Selling Strategies Workbook, a detailed step-by-step guide to increasing your sales. Get any of these valuable resources at theprospectingexpert.com.
Our golden nugget today, the quote is, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." By Pablo Picasso. Never thought he would say something like that.
Yeah, and he probably said it in Spanish too.
Right, he could have.
But El Mino de Life of Segundo. Anyway, I think I like this one, especially as it relates to begin with the end in mind, right?
Right.
And so what we're going to do in the next podcast is help you find your gift. What is your gift? What is it you should be doing more of? I think this is true in networking or in referrals too, and finding new business. Do what you like to do a lot, and you'll enjoy your life more. As Scott said, he mentioned networking. I like to network. I like to meet with people and get to know them, and then I'm very comfortable calling them afterwards. So find what you're good at and do more of it, and you'll be happier. And you can give it away.
Right.
All of this you can find at winningatselling.com. All of our show notes, our links, everything will be there. If you have a question that you want to ask us, please send in the questions. We love to answer them. As a matter of fact, in a couple of podcasts, we're going to do a show just answering the questions we haven't been able to get to.
So next week, we're going to cover Habit 2, Begin with the End in Mind, pages 118 to 144. So we're going to finish the chapter. And our topic is going to be on managing conflict.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.